Hi, my name is Cindy Rang, and I'm the owner of the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington. Our website is www.fabricpatch.net. And I want to talk to you about freezer paper applique. Freezer paper applique is a super simple process, and if you like hand applique, or you think you might, but you don't want to deal with the whole needle turn process and getting all of your fabric turned under, it's just a way to make sure that everything is turned under before you start stitching. Super easy to do, and the product that you use is you just use regular freezer paper. So this is just Reynolds brand. You can find it in any grocery store or department store. They do make a quilt store quality freezer paper. The difference is that if you look at regular freezer paper, it has paper on one side and it has this wax coating on the other side. Regular Reynolds freezer paper has a thin layer of wax. The Cut-Right brand that you can buy in quilt stores, and we have online, is a little bit thicker. The amount of wax is about 3 times the amount. It's also cut into 8.5 by 11 size sheets, so you can run it right through your copy machine if you don't want to trace all of your patterns. But then what happens is if you've cut out a leaf or something, you can reuse that leaf 5, 6, even 7 times because of the amount of wax that's on here. Whereas the Reynolds brand, it's going to stick really well the first time. It's going to stick pretty well the second time, and probably not well at all on the third time. So it just sort of depends on how many times you're going to be reusing your templates and what you're using it for. All right, so once you have your freezer paper, what you're going to do is you're going to trace your pattern. So if you look here, I have 2 leaves that I've drawn onto my freezer paper. I've drawn them onto the paper side of my freezer paper. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So again, I just use the same scissors that I use for everything. I love my little Havel's serrated edge scissors. They have that nice little grippy quality to them. And so I can cut those out. And then I'm going to put it on the wrong side of my fabric. If you have a whole bunch of these to cut, you can trace each one individually. Or the other thing that you can do is you can go ahead and cut one and then take multiple layers, however many you want, however many you feel like you can cut through. Layer all of your freezer paper, put your pattern on the top, and then put a couple staples, 1 or 2 staples through there, and then you can go ahead and cut through, and you're cutting multiple templates at a time if that would be a little bit easier. So when you do this, you're going to go ahead and give yourself enough space so that you can cut 1/4 inch all the way around. So I'm actually going to go to this bigger one, which might be a little bit easier for you to see. So we've taken this, and we have the wax paper side down, and with the hot iron, we're just going to go ahead and iron that. And so what's basically happened is that wax has melted into the fabric, which seems a little creepy that you're doing that, but when you pull that off, it doesn't leave any kind of a residue or anything. It totally doesn't matter. You're all good. So then you're going to go ahead and cut around the outside edge here, and you're going to give yourself about 1/4 inch. You don't have to be super fussy about it. 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/8 inch, somewhere in there. You just want to make sure that you give yourself enough room at the end. I purposely picked a leaf because I want to show you how to do a point. What you do with the point is you want to make sure you have enough. If you don't have enough, you'll have that weird little fuzzy point thing at the end that everybody hates. So make sure you have 1/4, and then go ahead and give yourself a blunt tip on both sides. Then what you're going to do, as you go back to your ironing board, you do have to use Best Press. So we're going to put Best Press on here, and we're going to start with your corners. And people talk about burning their fingers, but I just have to say I don't typically burn my fingers. In fact, I don't think I ever have. I hate to say that because now I'm going to burn my fingers because I said I never have. But some people have said that you can use like your leather thimble to keep from burning your fingers. But my better advice is keep your fingers out of the way. Okay, so we've got that folded over, and then now we're going to come up, and it's kind of wet, so it seems a little funny, but then when you fold that, see how you have that nice perfect point right there? And since you have this Best Press, you're just going to easily, you can feel the ridge, that edge of your freezer paper as you come around, and so you're just going to fold that over, give that a really nice press, and then we're going to go on the other side. We're going to do that same thing. We're just going to fold that over. And again, just kind of keep your fingers out of the way there a little bit. And come around. Get that whole thing pressed over. So then what you have is you have these nice crisp points, you know, because everything is folded over on the other side. So go ahead and work through these, and as you work through these, then what's going to happen is you'll come back around and it will have dried. And by dried, I mean the best press has all dried and you don't have a moist little leaf. So once you've done that, then you can just reach in here and you pull out your freezer paper. And again, it's not very sticky because it was just that little bit of wax under there, so you pull that out. If you want to give it just another quick little press, you can, but you don't want to add best press at this point, because if you do, it will bloom and that nice crisp edge will go away. So here you have it, and then when it's time to go ahead and lay it down on your piece, you can go ahead and do your hand stitching, but all of your raw edges have been folded over. So I'm going to show you on this. This is one of the blocks from Gossip in the Garden. So I have my, what is this thing called?
A teapot.
Teapot. And so here's my, my freezer paper teapot. I don't know what happened there, but no big deal. I'm just going to take this off. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and stick this down here. Now, oftentimes what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and take my glue, and I'm just going to go ahead and if your glue, I've mentioned this before, if your glue gets kind of gummy because you've used it multiple times, that's the other thing that's good for freezer paper. Just take your freezer paper and run your glue along the edge there, and that'll clean it off a little bit, because sometimes you end up getting funny little nasty linty thread bits on there. And you'll see, I'm going to show you what this looks like after I go around this edge. You'll see I'll have funny little blue thread on there. Oh, no, because I said it was going to be there. Now it's not there, but sometimes it is, and that's how you clean it off, is just with your freezer paper. Make sure you put your cap back on there. And then you're just going to flip this over, and there on your pattern where it goes, you're just going to go ahead and lay that down. And then you can go ahead and I've talked about this before, that I trace everything with my friction marker so that I know where everything goes. And also the reason it's nice that it's the friction marker is if something happened and I don't know if my freezer paper template was a little bit off or my first drawing was a little bit off, but it doesn't matter, because then I'm just going to shoot it with the iron real quick, and then what happens is my marks have gone away, and now it fits perfectly. And nobody knows. So now all I need to do is just come back along, and again, for freezer paper applique, I use the same needle, same thread that I do for all of my other applique work. I just use a straw needle and an 80 weight thread. I'm just going to come along right underneath that underside edge and stitch that down. And that's what you're doing, is since you have your fabric underneath there, you're just going to come up just underneath and then just go right down through that same fabric up underneath. And my grandmother used to call this the dolphin stitch. I don't think a dolphin really swims like that, but I believed it when I was small, because that's the stitch that you make. And it just becomes this nice invisible stitch to hold everything down. I had another block somewhere to show you, but anyway, super simple freezer paper applique, just an easy way to go ahead and transfer your applique fabric pieces so that you can easily hand stitch it down after it's down on your fabric. So have fun with your applique and happy quilting.